Hey everyone, Captain Amazing here, and today I want to talk about when you should farm C. So let's jump into it. So full disclosure, C is one of the two GLs I haven't farmed, so that may give you an idea of when I think you should farm C. So C is not a difficult farm. His requirements aren't that hard. There's no relic 8s, there's no relic 9s, there's no fleet. So you may wonder why I don't have them. It's not because I fall under the line of thinking that C is not a good GL. I don't think he's the best. I don't think he's like an S tier, but in threes, if you put a S tier Sith with him, like Savage with his Omicron, or if you use like a Malik, then then he requires an actual GL to beat him. So he's not a bad character overall, and I think having the flexibility of having him on offense allows you to beat some good teams, because a GL, no matter who they are, still is a very strong character. And what they do is they're just not they kind of help deal with the meta, because if you have something like a C, then he may be able to negate some important defensive datacrons that will allow you to have the flexibility of putting some more stuff on defense and having a cheap counter with C. And I know you may think like, oh, GL, that's a cheap counter, but having him and what, or using Geobrute Alpha in the armor or something like that, can help you just improve your offense. And it's usually pretty decent banners as well. So when should you farm this character? It's pretty difficult to say. There's a few lines of thought of when you should do it, because if you're thinking when are you the closest to farm it, and if you farm C, if you're like, let's say you're completely free to play and you farm C as your first GL, I don't think that's horrible if you farmed Executor, because there's a lot of synergy between the Executor farm and the C farm, and it's really not that bad, because you have things like Darth Vader is in there, and it's not a bad farm. So let's look at the actual GL again. So Admiral Piet, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, all good synergies. You do need Emperor Palpatine for SOKR, but Darth Vader, Piet there has good synergies. Imperial TIE Bomber. So there's some good synergy here. And then I do recommend that you farm Veers and Stark at least to gear 12. And those are only Relic 3. Thrawn I usually recommend for Relic 3 if you have SLKR, so that you can do the Proving Ground. So there's a lot of good synergies here. As you can see, I have a lot of these characters pretty much built up, and I haven't farmed C. I'm pretty close actually. I just have to get a few characters. And you may ask like why I haven't farmed C. It's because I'm income driven as a player, and there's other things that I still need a farm that will give me more income and just help my guild overall. Things like Jedi Knight Cal Kestis and Bo-Katan Mandalore. So once I have those, then I'll farm C. But that's my farming pathway. When should you farm C? It really does depend. I would say if you are looking for importance, then these are the 6 GLs that you probably should have before C. If you are completely free to play, then I can understand why you wouldn't have Rey and you would farm C before Rey. But I think if you go Executor into C into Jabba, that's still a good farming pathway. Or you can farm C as your 7th or even 8th GL, even though usually the last GL is reserved for Lord Vader. I do think I probably will farm Lord Vader before C, and I'll tell you why. And that's because I think if we get another GL another GL Lightspeed bundle, then I think there's a very strong possibility that C would be that Lightspeed bundle. We already have one for Ray, we have one for SLKR. So if they plan on giving us one for the November anniversary of the game, then I think the likelihood that it's C is extremely high. The only thing I could see them possibly doing, maybe a JML bundle, but they've already given us kind of like a soft Jedi Knight Luke bundle, so I'm not sure if they would do that, but I could see very soon, if they will do it, a C bundle. We still don't know what their rhythm is for releases. We don't know if they plan to do more GLs. We just don't know, but I could definitely see C being a Lightspeed bundle here shortly, and that's why I'll probably farm like my Bad Batch and I'll farm Lord Vader, because I think the likelihood of having like a Bad Batch Lightspeed bundle into Lord Vader is a lot less likely than a C bundle, but it's purely a guess. It could be Lord Vader could be the next Lightspeed bundle. JMK, who knows? Who knows? No one knows except those who probably work for CG. But if you're worried about a Lightspeed bundle for C, then I'll say like continue farming new things. Farm Balin Skull, farm GL Ahsoka, farm probably whatever fleet's coming in 2025. Farm like JMK, Leia, Jabba. Those are all pretty much Lightspeed bundle proof right now and are safe from not getting one. So I will say this: if you are not farming huge things and that's prohibiting you from experiencing the game, then I'll say like, hey, don't worry about it. If it saves you money in the long run if you don't have to buy a Lightspeed bundle. But where my account is, I have 6 GLs. I have all the GL fleets. I'm finishing up the last few characters. Like I have this is it, like Bo-Katan, Mandalore, Afra, Jar Jar, Lord Vader, C. That's all I'm missing. So if I think C, out of all these, I think C will probably have a likelihood of being a Lightspeed bundle, then I'll go ahead and farm these that I think won't have a Lightspeed bundle, or a high chance they won't. Then I'll farm that. Like Bo-Katan Mandalore just came out. I'm farming her next after I finish gearing up my Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. A Dr. Afra bundle, I could see that. I probably will hold off on Dr. Afra. C, I'll work on Lord Vader, Jar Jar, Balin Skull, GL Ahsoka before I would do like an Afra or a C, because I think there's no chance of a bundle coming out for like Balin Skull or GL Ahsoka. That would be a ridiculous amount of time. It may never come. It depends on how long this game will last. So that's why I'm saying overall, like C, if you are in my position, then pretty good likelihood. If C is the last GL you need, he's relatively cheap, go ahead and farm him. I think he's worth it. So once I farm Lord Vader and then I have nothing else to farm as far as major farms, maybe I'll go Lord Vader into, or GL Ahsoka into Balin Skull into Lord Vader, and then if I have nothing else to farm at that point, then I'll farm C, and then if a Lightspeed bundle comes out, then no big loss. But if you are at the point where if you're free to play, go ahead and farm him. I think he's a good GL and very cheap. If you buy Lightspeed bundles, then maybe hold off, farm newer things, and then once you get to the point where you just have nothing else to farm, then farm him. But I'm going to err on the side of caution and not farm him right away. At least at the very earliest, I would farm him early next year if my farming pathway kind of like leads me that way. But no sooner than that, because I think in November and December we're probably going to get some Lightspeed bundles. So a little convoluted answer. I would say I wouldn't farm him before you have these 6 GLs, just because they're better than him. Lord Vader's crazy expensive. I would say farm your GL ships before you farm C. If you're completely free to play, then I think there's a viable pathway if you go Executor into C into something like Jabba, because C is just the closest GL to Executor, and getting your first GL is a pretty big thing. So that's pretty much like the summary of it. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me, if you think he's going to be a Lightspeed bundle, if you're just raging against Lightspeed bundles for some reason and you will never buy it. Just let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Take care.